Right. So honestly, it's more of like, so I get a lot of people that ask me, how do I get into product manager if I'm not technical? And this is like on LinkedIn, at work. I'm pretty sure you probably get these people that reach out to you and they're like, oh, I saw that you're a solution engineer, or I saw that actually someone reached out to me last week because of our podcast. And they were asking me, what do you recommend me? Or how do you think I can get into product management? I've also gotten people in LinkedIn asking me questions about product management. So, of course, as you said, there's not like a real path, or like there's not like a set of steps that you're like, okay, if I do this, I'm 100% getting into product management, because luck is different, timing is different. Um, I don't know, everything could be circumstantial, right? But what do you think were like our highlights in our episodes that we spoke about that will definitely help you get into product management? Well, not definitely, right? But like give you like a higher chance of getting into product management.
Yeah, so this is where my brain goes with that. And the fact that you said like we're not going to tell you like a specific set of steps because there is none. But, like,
Right.
I think my advice, it's not just for product management, it's for life. Like the
Mm-hmm.
number one thing that, just reflecting on my time in school, looking
Mm-hmm.
back on, that like they do not teach you, and it's not really their prerogative to, is like school makes it, everything is very lockstep. It's, you
Mm-hmm.
have us, you're in a class for a year, you get a grade, you repeat it again, you're doing the same thing over and over, and you can kind of like check out a bit
Mm-hmm.
by the time you
It's
graduate college.
systematic.
Yeah, like you get, like, I think the biggest thing about school that like I learned as a warning sign is
Mm-hmm.
you can be like the smartest person in the world or the dumbest person in the world, or like not care or just care a lot. Like it doesn't, like this isn't like a person to person thing. I think there's something with our brains where if we get too used to a fixed system, that kind of like, oh, you do this to get to here, you get the good grades to get to the better college, then in the college you get the good grades to get the good job, and you need to take these classes and get good grades so you can get into the more advanced ones. And it makes it sound like life is like literally this like step by step by step, just
Mm-hmm.
wiki how tutorial where it's like, if I do X, Y, and Z, I get here. And like with getting into product management, I kind of like had to break all the rules in my head, where I would say like my advice for anyone who wants to get into product management is, isn't like, I mean, I can go into some specific things to like aim your brain towards, but the real lesson is you have to teach yourself how to like learn on your own. You need to like learn how to think outside the box
Mm-hmm.
and have train yourself to like go into directions of learning, whether it's through books, podcasts, YouTube, talking to people, picking their brain. You need to find the things that people aren't doing and go, what is of value here? Where, like, here's a good example. When you're applying to a job, you might go like, well, I have my college degree, I got good grades, and here's where I put my application. And look, I even have a referral. Like, I did everything I'm supposed to do. And if I don't get the job, it's just kind of like, well, that's not my fault. I did everything I was told. It's like, well, if you take a second to like think back to it and just like go, what's going on in the situation? You're like, well, there's probably like at least another 100 people applying, all doing the same exact thing as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be the smartest, hardest working person in the world. People scan through your resume so quick. So it's like, where do I go to get my edge?
I
And
mean, they might not even scan through your
yeah,
resume.
they probably
You
won't
might
even
get
look at your
filtered.
resume.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 100 resumes, they just grab 20 and they're like, these 10 look good enough. Let's like just fill them, roll and move on. So then doing things like reaching out to people who work at the company, picking their brain, going, if you were in my shoes, what would you do to get the leg up? Because even if they don't really have good advice, it gets them realizing that you're someone who's willing to think outside the box, that you're reaching out to them and asking them those types of questions, where they're more likely to throw you a bone and be like, yeah, let's like make sure this resume like gets through. Like this person seems at least worth talking to, and the fact that they showed initiative. So like my whole thing with just all the lessons and kind of like how to get to where we are, like do it with all the aspects of your life. Growing up, I would say my strengths were I've always been a huge reader. So I've been very comfortable with just like if school doesn't satisfy my itch for learning something, or say if it's even a topic that school doesn't teach you, because school is good for teaching you how to be a good worker, but it doesn't really teach you all the skills you need for life. Things like how to manage your finances, unless you're like a finance major or something, like how to like become wealthy, like how do you have some classes on better communication and networking. Those are more rare, but those kind of like think about those kind of skills that you want to learn, where just write down what you're trying to do. I want to get better at communication. I want to get better at writing or whatever, and go, where do I find the resources, and how do I find the best resources? YouTube is your friend. I think YouTube is one of the things that is like the great equalizer of education, because you no longer have to get saddled with this huge debt in fancy schools where you're like $100,000 in debt to get a piece of paper saying that you can do things. Self-teach yourself something and then create something based off that. So you can then show people in interviews like, hey, I did this thing. That kind of goes back to what I talked about, where my PM interview process was actually kind of laid back and easy, but it's because I built up a portfolio of so much stuff I could point to where I let my work talk for itself. But I like kind of talked about how it's like reading and kind of finding knowledge in books was always my strong suit. The thing that I've realized, it's been something I've been trying to focus on in PM, because I know it's a muscle that I'm not as used to, learning directly from people, because that's something I'm historically like less comfortable with, where I like having the convenience of on my time, I can pick up the book, go at the rate I want to go, and then like put it back down stuff. There is knowledge and like learning from people directly, like let's call it like specialized specific knowledge, where it's not just about the words that they're saying, it's like all the kind of subtle stuff they're communicating as part of their story, and the fact that you can like then ask them a direct question in response to, hey, like you said X, Y, and Z, like how does that fit in with like B and D kind of thing? It's like I'm all of this is, I think, me pointing to, if you want to get into PM, you have to try your best to train your brain to be a bit more fluid and turn learning into something that isn't a chore. It's like it's the same thing as like working out or getting sunshine. It's like, yeah, if you neglect it, things are going to kind of get a little bit worse for you. But if you like build up the muscle and get used to it, and you go, I don't need to get permission from someone to learn something, I'm going to follow my natural curiosity and interest. That's how you're going to start thinking more creatively. That's how you're going to start going, well, I'm noticing these roadblocks with getting to the next step of whether it's trying to get to PM or another career or something else. Like, I have these questions. Maybe if I like follow these threads, I'll be able to find some workarounds around like whatever obstacle I'm doing. So self-learning, learning how to think outside the box, and realize that once you leave school, for all the good it teaches you, there are certain things you have to unlearn. And it's kind of this idea of being like, life is this lockstep where if you wait your turn in line and you do all the specific things that other people say, you'll get where you want to go. It's like, that's not the case. Like, you need to take your own initiative. And it goes back to like what we've always talked about, where it's like, hey, our jobs are super cooperative and you need to learn to work well with other people, but no one is going to care about or advance your career other than you.
Right.